All right, folks, get comfy because tonight it's movie night.
Ooh,
We're
fun!
going to do a deep dive into a classic film, see if we can find some unexpected life lessons in it.
Oh, I love this. Okay.
You know, some movies are like more than just entertainment. They make you think. Yeah, nah.
Totally. Some
Oh.
movies just stick with you.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, I've got the perfect person to help us unpack all the layers.
I'm excited. I love a good movie analysis. Let's do it.
So I think most people, when they hear The Godfather, they think gangsters, violence.
Yeah, classic mob stuff.
Right. But I've always felt like there's this whole other layer to it, almost like a guidebook to life.
I see that, yeah, like beneath the surface.
Yeah, tucked away beneath all the action. What do you think?
Oh, totally. It's a film that works on so many levels. On one hand, you've got the crime saga, but underneath all that, you find these universal themes.
Family, loyalty, ambition.
Exactly. And the corrupting nature of power, it's all woven together so brilliantly.
Okay, so where do we even begin? I mean, this movie is epic.
Well, for me, it has to start with Michael Corleone. I mean, his journey is just wow.
Right. He's like Shakespearean almost. Starts as this war hero
So far removed from the family business.
and then ends up, well, maybe even more ruthless than his dad.
The transformation is incredible. It's one of the most fascinating character arcs ever.
Talk about a fall from grace. It reminds me of, like Macbeth, slowly consumed by ambition.
Totally. It's like watching him lose his soul bit by bit.
You see how that pressure, the weight of leadership, just wears him down. All those compromises, he just keeps justifying them.
And he ends up becoming the very thing he swore he'd never be. It's tragic.
So true. It really makes you think, like, what are we willing to sacrifice to succeed?
Yeah. Are there lines we shouldn't cross? Where does ambition become too much?
That's a cautionary tale, right? How anyone, even with good intentions,
Can get corrupted.
especially when you're surrounded by darkness all the time.
I mean, power can be intoxicating.
It reminds me of that quote, power tends to corrupt.
And absolute power corrupts absolutely, Lord Acton.
Exactly. And it makes you think about those real-life figures, right? The ones who crave power.
Yeah, do they ever question their methods?
It's interesting because you've got Michael, this modern kind of Machiavellian approach.
Right, like the ends justify the means.
But then you've got his father, Vito.
Yeah.
Completely different philosophy.
Vito is old school, respect, tradition.
Yeah, he built his empire through connections. He understands people.
Knows their needs, their weaknesses.
It's like you catch more flies with honey.
Right, not to say Vito's a saint.
No, not at all. But there's this wisdom to his approach, like patience.
And remember that line, a man who doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man.
Oh man, that's pure gold. Speaks volumes, doesn't it?
It's about prioritizing what truly matters. Family, those deep bonds.
Even in that world. Organized crime, where loyalty is everything.
Vito knew that true power comes from love, from connection, not fear.
And ironically, that's what Michael ultimately loses. His family, Kay, his peace of mind.
It crumbles under the weight of his ambition. It's heartbreaking.
He pushes everyone away, isolates himself, ends up tragically alone.
Success without those connections can be a very hollow victory.
And speaking of disconnection, can we talk about Fredo for a minute? His betrayal. Oof, man.
Fredo, oh, such a tragic character, desperate for his family's approval.
Totally. He wants to prove himself, but he always feels inadequate.
Overshadowed, underestimated, and that insecurity leads him down a dark path.
It's like classic sibling rivalry, right?
Yeah.
But amplified 1,000 times because, well,
Because they're the Corleones?
exactly. It's like that dynamic you see sometimes. One sibling feels overlooked, the other burdened.
It can be so toxic. And Fredo's case, those feelings make him vulnerable to manipulation.
Which leads to that betrayal,
It's a reminder that even those we love can hurt us.
especially when their own desires cloud their judgment.
We've all felt inadequate sometimes, unsure of where we fit in. But Fredo's story shows how dangerous those feelings can be.
If you let them fester, they can lead to some bad choices. It's like Scar betraying Mufasa.
Oh, yeah. The Lion King.
That same theme of jealousy within a family and the fallout is devastating.
You almost feel bad for Fredo, even though what he did was unforgivable.
You do. He's got that vulnerability. And then you have Tom Hagen, the adopted son. He's like the ultimate loyalist.
Ironic, isn't it? The one not bound by blood is the most steadfast.
It really makes you think about what true loyalty means.
Tom's interesting. He's not a fighter, he's a strategist.
Like a chess player, always thinking a few steps ahead.
The voice of reason in a world of passion and violence. He's the glue that holds the family together.
He smooths things over, always diplomatic, total opposite of Sonny.
Right. Sonny's impulsive, Tom's calculated.
And his loyalty, despite not being blood, never wavers.
It speaks volumes about the power of shared values and deep trust, not just about family ties.
And then there's Kay, caught in the crossfire.
She represents that clash between the longing for a normal life and the family's dark secrets.
She loves Michael, but she's horrified by what he's becoming.
It's like she's watching him disappear, replaced by this cold persona. It's tragic.
It's that classic dilemma, love versus duty.
She's torn between her heart and her conscience.
And Kay's story really highlights how Michael's choices affect everyone around him.
Not just himself, the ripples spread far and wide.
And speaking of iconic moments, we can't forget one of the most famous lines in movie history.
Oh, you mean, I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
That's the one. It's like Vito's whole philosophy boiled down.
Totally. It's about understanding people's motivations, their desires, their weaknesses.
Using that knowledge to get what you want.
Strategic, but also raises questions about manipulation.
Where's the line between persuasion and coercion, right?
It's that moral ambiguity that makes The Godfather so compelling. It forces us to confront these uncomfortable questions about power and the means we use to achieve our goals.
It makes you think about those real-life power brokers, the ones operating in the shadows.
Yeah, the string pullers, the deal makers, do they ever question their methods?
What compromises do they make? What price are they willing to pay?
Big questions, and I think that's what makes The Godfather such a masterpiece. It stays with you, makes you think about these things long after the credits roll.
It's like that saying, the best art makes you think.
And The Godfather, it definitely does that.
Definitely.
It really makes you think, like, what are we willing to sacrifice for success?
And control, right. Is there ever a point where it's just too much?
Like, do we ever lose sight of who we are in the process?
Exactly. It's like that line from, what was it, The Dark Knight?
Ooh, yeah. Which one?
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Whoa. Yeah, that fits perfectly.
Michael, he starts out with these, good intentions. But the deeper he gets, the more he loses himself.
It's that classic tragic arc. And it leaves you wondering, is it inevitable? Does power always corrupt?
Or do we have a choice? I mean, that's a tough one.
Really makes you think.
So, okay, but what does all this mean for us? We're not running crime families.
Right. We're not making these crazy life or death decisions.
So what can we take away from The Godfather?
I think, for me, it's a reminder that choices have consequences.
Even the small ones.
Exactly. We all face those moments where we're tempted, right?
To compromise.
Yeah, take shortcuts, put our ambition above, well, everything else.
And The Godfather shows us what can happen. The ripple effect.
It can go way beyond just ourselves.
It also makes you think about family.
Oh, absolutely. Even in that world, with all the violence, the betrayal, family is at the heart of it.
It's their driving force.
Right. And in a way, for all the darkness, The Godfather is a story about family, loyalty, all those complicated relationships.
It's a good reminder to cherish those bonds, to nurture those connections.
Exactly. And maybe think twice before getting involved in any family business.
Yeah, good point. But seriously, I think the beauty of this film is it sparks these conversations.
It makes you reflect.
On the human condition, what makes us tick.
You know, what's right, what's wrong, it stays with you. It makes you question things.
Like, what are our values?
Right.
What are we striving for?
Big questions.
It's like they say, the best art makes you think. And this film, it definitely does that.
Oh, for sure. Masterpiece for a reason. Right. And it makes you think, you know, are we all capable of that?
Of becoming, like, the villain?
Yeah. Like, given the right circumstances, could we all end up making those tough choices?
The compromises.
Yeah.
The ones that maybe change who we are.
It's a scary thought, but I think The Godfather forces us to consider it.
Makes you wonder about those famous quotes, right? Like, what was it?
Oh, you mean, the road to hell is paved with good intentions?
Yeah. That one is like, are we all just one bad decision away from
going down that path? Yeah, it's a powerful message.
It is. So, okay, but what does all this mean for, like, the average person?
Right, people who aren't, running the mob or anything.
What can we learn from a movie about gangsters? Seems kind of, I don't know.
Well, I think the lessons they're actually more universal than you might think.
Really?
For sure. I mean, it's about ambition, right? Loyalty, family.
Those are pretty relatable themes.
Absolutely. We all deal with that stuff. And The Godfather, it puts a magnifying glass on it.
It shows us the extremes.
Exactly, the potential consequences of our choices,
Yeah.
even the seemingly small ones.
Like we all face temptations.
Oh, yeah, to cut corners, to bend the rules a little.
To maybe prioritize our own success above everything else.
And The Godfather is a cautionary tale. It's like, hey, be careful. Those choices can have a ripple effect.
They can impact more than just yourself. It's like that butterfly effect thing.
Right. One small flap of the wings, and who knows what could happen.
It's a lot to think about.
It is. But that's what makes a good movie, right? It sticks with you. Makes you question things.
Definitely. So I think we can call this movie night a success.
I'd say so. Lots of food for thought tonight.
Uncovered some hidden depths. Maybe even learned a thing or two about life. And family.
And how not to make someone an offer they can't refuse.
Exactly. So, until next time, folks, keep watching, keep thinking, and keep diving deep.
And if you've got any suggestions for our next movie night, let us know. We're always up for exploring those hidden gems.
The unexpected wisdom tucked away in our favorite films.